We do. You know, let's not waste any time. Let's get ready. Let's hop into open up with 3DB and Jessieology up against My Insanity Zerton and Syrakus.
Indeed. Welcome everyone to the game, and look at that beautiful overlay we have as well for this show as well. And KB, right off the bat, we are starting off with Ottomans. Now, I was a little late to the show, so remind me what we had in the first games that you have watched, because I'm curious, did you actually see the new civilizations in that, or is this the first time here in this event?
So this will be the first series, right? So we're opening up the first one here. This is just round one, but you know, we've seen a decent amount of the Ottomans at will on the 1v1 format. The interesting part is when I've seen a bunch of people practice them for a certain EGC tournament later this month, I haven't seen too much of the Ottomans in 3v3s and rarely in the 2v2s. I definitely think the Civ has a lot of strength still, though. Although it hasn't been explored, what it does in the 1v1s definitely translates into multiplayer games. You just need to make sure you have a teammate that covers your early game, right? Because there's no denying the Ottomans are a bit slower to kick off.
Yeah, for sure they are. It's gonna be interesting to see how it's utilized, because we're starting off with an open map. So, as you said, Ottomans, they take a little bit more time to kick off. So, you may have expected them on a map like Hideout instead, for example. But we're playing only best of ones here, so this is the only map we're playing, and look at that. Talk about the slow start for the Ottomans. We're gonna have an aggressive-ish posturing here from Syrakus. Made a man-at-arms, but the guy's just chilling back at home.
Yeah, but that's aggressive defense, Lidakor. If you go back to that man-at-arms, like, look how intimidating he is right now. Yeah, see, exactly. You call him out, and now he's coming to your bedroom to beat you up, Lidakor. Look at this Leviathan, this god. And look at the journey he's got to make, because we're not going to follow him all the way. Let's just do a fast pan of how far he has to run. It's pretty ridiculous how big this map is.
It is. As you said, there are going to be massive differences between 1v1s and 2v2s, and one of those things is the map size. It's much larger, and while in 1v1s you may be able to do some damage with that man-at-arms in Dark Age, if you arrive on time, it's going to be a little bit more difficult in 2v2s, although the guy is going to be there to harass the gold miners. B is going to have the scholar there to heal, though.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think this is the rough situation. Like, you kind of caught the wrong player. I don't know if he knew this going ahead of time, that it was going to be the Delhi player on this side. Because if you got the French player, it makes a lot more sense, right? The French player needs a lot of gold to get those initial knights out. Although you are delaying B's teching by having a scholar here instead of banked, overall, he's getting a lot more out of this because of how much the English player has to invest in this early aggression.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like part of the equation here is that you're trying to damage the stronger player, because for those of you that don't know about this event, we always have kind of a master player that is a professional player, and sort of an apprentice, I like to call him. It's a player from the silver, gold, platinum leagues, and in my interpretation for this event, one of the best things that you could possibly do is use your apprentice player to do a lot of damage to the opponent's pro player, so your own pro player can then just snowball the game.
Yeah, the interesting thing to me is when we talk about this just a bit before you came on, I was saying, like, the Ottomans, they have this trigger delay. Usually you want to pair them with an aggressive Civ. You know, maybe you go for the Lombo play, but apparently in Zerton Syrakus' eyes, that would be a little bit too slow, which makes a lot of sense. Because let's say you go for Lombos to early harass. By the time you get that, there's already feudal on both the Delhi and French player, which means they have Royal Knights and they have healing for those Royal Knights. And I'm not talking about chivalry. It means that you actually need both players to mass a lot of spears. So I kind of prefer this opening coming out from Zerton and his bro.
It could even get worse if you think about that, because we're talking about B in control of the Delhi. So sure thing, you're gonna have the Knights for Jessie. But B is one of those players that loves to use the Tower of Victory, and I think that's what we are seeing out there. Imagine that, French Knights with healing of the Scholars, plus Tower of Victory Archers. How do you stop that with longbows?
It's a difficult one. You really need to come together, and you need to get a pretty succulent timing, which I'm kind of doubting is going to happen here for Syrakus because of this investment. Like, he went only 2 man-at-arms in the end, I think, plus the racks. You can now see the Council Hall coming up, but it's going to be on a delay. And you know, one of the issues is if you're not already towards your opponent's base with initial lombos when the first 2 knights come out, you're probably just going to be turtling. And that is something that can be beneficial until you're ready for the Ottoman player, but I wonder what the English player is going to be able to do under that amount of pressure. Not to mention the fact that it's a Delhi in this game, right? Which means if you do defend in your base, Sacred Site's going to get capped, gold's going to trickle in, and you're going to be forced to come out.
Yeah, for sure. And as you said, Ottomans take a little bit more time to kick in, so you would assume that B and Jessie will be able to secure some map control, so they could easily start yoinking the Sacred Sites, and this could easily go beyond the threshold of snowballing it.
Yeah, it's actually interesting to me to see B going for the tower victory, just because, you know, I like this landmark. I've been a big fan of this landmark for months, and it's just got buffed time and time again. The only thing is when you play on a map this big, Horseman can be a little bit more tempting, but this choice to go into the tower victory suggests to me that B's clear win condition are those sacred sites. He has no interest in trying to kill either the English or the Ottoman player.
Yeah, for sure. Especially because, as you said, we're expecting a slower start here. Ottomans for Zerton, that's obviously a slightly slower start, but also you see the men-at-arms, not just one, but actually 2 men-at-arms from Syrakus. So he's yet to reach Feudal Age, which tells B and Jessie that they have a lot of time to play around here. They don't need to rush him.
And I like that Syrakus stopped at 2, just enough to harass, because if you go more men-at-arms, I don't think there's a worse Civ to match up against with that strategy than the French. If there's one Civ and Feudal that can deal with these early men-at-arms, it is the French with their Royal Knights. They're able to trade, they're able to disengage, and they slowly tear you apart. So I'm glad that he just switched it onto a different target here, getting into that Feudal, getting a stable economy online, and then getting a solid army behind it all.
Yeah, now the next question is going to be unit composition, because for the English, your best choice may just be longbows to supplement cavalry from the Ottomans, but you have the impression that B and Jessie will have a much better combo with the Knights and those archers buffed by the Tower of Victory, and right now, if we look at the top of the screen, the military balance is in the favor of B's team, and they're ready to do some damage on that rather undefended gold mine.
Oh, wow, and this layout is rough as well. He has to set his archery ranges up away from the TC. That's bad news, Lidakor. It means he only has one archery range that can easily spawn him out, and it looks like he has invested, rather, he's about to invest in the Vizier points. I'd expect him to go for the meta, just get one out straight away, get that attack speed, because you're going to need that attack speed. Remember, this is a Tower Victory build, which means the only way that you're matching the attack speed of the Delhi is if you do have the Drummer Boy.
Yeah, for sure, but the key word, as you said, it's matching it. Oftentimes in 1v1s, we see Ottomans dominating the battlefield with the power of the matter, but here, you are simply in the need of it because you need to match what the Delhi brings to the table, so you won't be able to carve out a massive advantage on the battlefield from it.
Yeah, now the Longbows are going to come across. That should give them the edge here. Remember that B, he brought these troops forward, but because he went Tower Victory, he lacks the scholars to heal out in the field. This is the downside of this strategy, is you are a glass cannon. You do more damage, but you have less sustain.
I also love how they're targeting the player that's supposed to play cavalry, because we're assuming that the Ottomans are going to play cavalry here. So you force the longbow player to always send reinforcements across the map that could be picked off, and they are slow to arrive. Oh, yeah, bit of a battle coming up here. They're flirting with the idea of charging in.
Yeah, that's the thing. They're only going on Zerton, so they will have to fight sooner or later. They're not even trying to pick apart the longbow reinforcements. They really are prioritizing the pro player here. Pro player that really does not have a standing army, and it feels like this archer ball from B is escalating a little bit too quickly for my liking.
Yeah, it's rapid, right? They have a higher movement speed than the longbows, so it doesn't take much more time for those archers to arrive than the longbows do. And you see now the knights are postured in a way that they cut off the reinforcements. Beautiful positioning by B and Jessie.
This is interesting from Jess. She could probably get a bit more damage done with cycle charging, but she doesn't want to risk some spears being mixed in that she's missing. So instead, she's just aggroing troops out. She's like, come here, little fishy, drags him out of his safe zone, and all of a sudden, the wolf that is B is ready to om-nom down on the target. Love that.
Yeah, I wonder how we are doing with the ability to capture sacred sites now for B, because fight has been going on inside the base of Zerton here. Zerton and Syrakus have virtually no map control, so B should be able to yoink all 3 sacred sites.
Yeah, it should be coming. Yeah, so he's got the tech user completes around like 8-9 minutes, right? So he's going to make his shift out now, and it's all about securing that map control. Something that they now get to do because there are these Sapahi passively being built by Zerton as the Ottomans, but they have to be at home because all these trades so far have been one-sided, and it's definitely not in favor of the Mayan Sanity member.
Yeah, for sure. We haven't really seen a lot of 2v2s in AOE4. These 2v2 tournaments just weren't frequent, but going back to AOE2, for example, for comparisons, the general strategy is that you're trying to target the cavalry player because it's much more difficult for the teammate to reinforce the cavalry player with the slow-moving archers, and that seems to be the game plan here for Jessie and B as well.
Well, Scholars are going to get pinched by the cavalry coming from Zerton, though, so we'll not get all the sacred sites for free. And I mean, in fairness, this is somewhat on Jess and B for backing off. They decided to just go back towards the sacred sites and patrol the midfield instead of applying more pressure on Zerton. Giving breathing space to the Ottomans is a very dangerous thing to do here, but if they can start taking that sacred site victory condition in return for it, it'll be worthwhile.
Yeah, for sure, especially because B is also walling in those sacred sites, so by the time Zerton or Syrakus arrives, those will mostly be walled in, so they'll also have to get through those walls. As you see, one in the middle is already finished, and the one on the right side is also going to be walled in by the time they arrive.
I think Zerton, did he go for the... Yeah, so he went for the drum boy now, but he started off with the sheep. A lot of people tend to do this if you feel pressured, if you can't access other food. Also, it just gives you better gathering rates on the mines. So, not the worst choice. I wonder if the meta would have been better this early on, but maybe he was worried that if he did spawn it, B would have targeted it down straight away with the archers.
Yeah, it's also worth noting that, like, he was very much stunned inside his base. It was difficult for him to access resources, so having that extra food just to be able to continue military production was vital for him. So, could have been kind of a lifeline for him in that case.
Yeah, I think it's the risk is like he doesn't want to lose the meta. There's a risk associated with that because he did have the Madrissa on the north side of his base, so he would have been able to still access food there. Just didn't want to risk it for the biscuit. But now they're going to risk the whole army in the center here, trying to access those sacred sites. They know they need to burn through, but remember, they went mass archers, both of them. So this torch down is going to be very slow. B and Jess do have time to work with here.
Yeah, they do, and now you're going to have some scholars on the battlefield as well.
I mean, this is ambitious what they're trying to do. They might get pinched. Archers wrapping from both sides. Knights are on the way, so Zerton has to back away. He has to be careful with the supply as well. Really, it's the only mobility and the only front line because both players are just massing archers on Zerton and Syrakus' team.
Yeah, indeed, they do. Now, they managed to break through the walls, also trying to decap the sacred sites, which is starting to get important because if you take a look at the top of the screen, we do have that sacred site countdown. Oh, look at that! Hero Scholar saving the day, keeping the sacred site in control. So 9.5 minutes until Syrakus and Zerton is going to lose the game to the sacred sites. It always feels like it's a lot, but then you realize it's actually not that much, unless you have a spearman decapping a sacred site to the north.
Oh, the knight! Oh, no! He stopped just short. Oh, I think he actually could have got on that. That's unfortunate. So the decap is going to come through. But look elsewhere, because I see an issue here, Lidakor. These scholar counts, they're going up to 9, now about to go double digits. These knights are going to be full health constantly. And that knight count is already up to 13, soon to 16. Look on the other side, because you'll notice a lack of spearmen to keep those knights at bay.
Yeah, and even if you had spears, there's a lot of archers out there for B. And as you see now, ooh, catching this off guard.
Oh, but that formation. Yeah, that formation doesn't work for him very well. Jess is going to bait the spears in range of B, so a few of them are going to be picked off. Remember, if you do not kill knights here, they're going to get healed afterwards, so you either have to run straight away or fight. And he needs to be careful with this formation shuffle. He will get out quick enough, but remember, whenever you shift to the backside like this, the meta goes to the back of the formation, so when you're retreating, it's the most exposed unit.
Yeah, and Zerton doesn't seem to pay attention to that. Matter is still on the front line. What?
The Syrakus, he's going in a bit too hard here. Like, he might just get wiped out here. Wait, what? They're longbows. They're meant to be long range, not short. He's trying to snipe the scholars. He's going to lose the whole army.
I don't know about this, KP. The sacrifice is too massive. You're going to pick off the scholars. Yeah, look at the army count on the top. It went from 70 versus 70 down to 71 versus 40. Barely any losses for B's team, whereas for Syrakus and Zerton, they have virtually no army left for Syrakus.
I feel like Syrakus was like, you know, pro plus average level player. No, I'm going to save the pro this day. Watch me, Dad. And Zerton's like, no, look out! Too late, though. And honestly, just throwing away that many longbows, it hurts more than if Zerton lost his army. Because think about the cost. Longbows cost even more. Also, you're now further away from the defense than Zerton would be. He could more often afford to expend his army than the English player can. And it's why this is very unfortunate the way it plays out. Remember, they went back to capping sacred sites, by the way. It's the only reason they're not diving the base. They want that as the win condition. Once again, Syrakus and Zerton have to come out.
Yeah, they do, and they're facing tremendous amounts of archers on the battlefield. Now, B is up to 50, all of those boosted by a Tower of Victory, plus being healed by the Scholars. And right now, Zerton's team is just trying to match archer numbers, which will be insufficient. They still need to deal with those knights.
Those knights that are diving in hard right now. Lack of sufficient spears to really counter them as well. You see they get baited out. Syrakus was not quick to micro back, which means they're going to exploit that. Jess goes in once again. Remember, anytime you're taunting these knights, it means that attack speed buffer from B is just shredding right through you. The scholars are still standing. It just feels like there's too many things that are too tanky that Zerton and Syrakus need to kill.
Yeah, but it's the knights, and now they're cleaning up the archers, about to hit the barriers, and there's just nothing left for Zerton's team. Outnumbered 2-1, now they're willing to dive the DC here, and this might be the end for Zerton and Syrakus here in the winner's bracket.
Now, there is hope in that they are attacking the Ottoman player. This Civ is quite insane. I have never seen a Civ in the history of AOE4 that can lose its entire economy, everything can be idle, and it can still muster an army. But this Civ can. So as long as they're in Zerton space and not Syrakus's, there's a way that maybe they can push them away. The problem, however, is that Sacred Site timer behind all this. It's still ticking down, just over 7 minutes to go.
Yeah, it's the escalation, and look at that, Beach keeps spotting archers, but there's the answer.
The answer is, let's go to the lower bracket. We get a second shot of this. Zerton and Syrakus are not out, but they are down and under after game 1. B and Jess continue on in the winner's bracket.
Preparation pays off. I briefly checked on the teams last evening, so just a couple of hours after the qualified players were revealed. So only just a couple of hours after the teams we learned. And for most of the teams, they had a maximum of 2 to 3 practice games in. At the time I checked, B and Jessie already had 10. So they've been grinding really hard yesterday.